Welcome to Beyond Time Signatures. So today with us we have Dante Frisiello, and Dante is plays in a band called Fly with Formation, and guess what? He also tours with Steve Vai. What's up, Dante? How are you? Welcome to the
Hey, what's
podcast.
hey, Val, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So yeah, man. There's a lot of ground to cover, but I would like to start with like you know what got you into music, and what was the initial few things that wanted you to like, okay, this guitar theme seems cool, let's play it a little bit, stuff like that.
Well, the first time I remember connecting music with beauty and emotions in my mind was when I was playing Super Mario 64 as a kid and heard the song "Dire Dire Docks." That was that was the first moment I can remember where uh, music connected with me, and then um, the band Rush. Around that same time period, my dad, when he drove me to school, he would he put on Rush one time, and I was just like obsessed. It was this 5, 6 year old kid, like, you know, obsessing over it, and I loved it so much. It was like, spirit of radio. It's like when I was that age and I heard that song, it was like a fucking explosion of excitement, and that's where my love of music was born. And I listened uh, to a lot of different music as I grew up, but I Rush was my band, and I listened to them pretty much nonstop for like the first 10, 15 years of being a music
Damn.
listener.
Damn,
And they
that's a
have
lot of
such a big
years.
catalog that you can you can get years and years out of their catalog. Uh, so that was with music, and but when I came to the guitar, uh, I didn't really understand what it was, and I didn't really get it. I was an athlete growing up. I never played music. I didn't start playing music until I was in ninth grade. I tried the guitar
Okay.
once, and I quit because my teacher was teaching me "Mary Had a Little Lamb" and sheet music, and I'm like, this is so boring, and I don't get this at all. And well, I guess I'm just an athlete, but that whole video game thing kept it going a little bit because I started playing Guitar Hero, and I got really good at Guitar Hero. I beat
Nice.
Guitar Hero 3 on expert. I was super obsessed. And then I was about to start ninth grade, and my brother Ricky was visiting me, and uh, he saw me playing Guitar Hero, and thank God for Ricky, man. He was like, dude, what the hell is that? He was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, dude, like it's guitar." And he's like, "No, dude, no, 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 no. You need to play the real guitar." And he went and grabbed my old acoustic that I had tried to start learning on, and he played Stone Temple Pilots, "Interstate Love Song." He played that song. I remember watching him play it, and it was like a funnel of like blackness, just like funneled my entire world focusing in on him playing the guitar, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is what I need to do." And it was really thanks to my brother that I unlocked that, the purpose to really pursue the guitar. And then this was right around the time YouTube was coming around. So it was right around this time, 13 years old, just after I started taking lessons again with a new teacher, a rock teacher, Eric Webb, one of the best people ever. Um, thank I'm grateful for him every day as well, because I walked into my first lesson and he's just shredding, and he had
Damn.
amazing tone and amazing chops, and he was shredding on a Telecaster, and he could do country, he could do Van Halen, he could do it all. And I had Eric as a teacher for a couple years, um, and then this was the time I discovered Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Eric Johnson. The internet, YouTube just started, and um, it started giving me guitar videos, and 13-year-old me was very very into that. And um, that's when I really discovered the whole world of uh, other kind of guitar music, all that kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, man, that's kind of how I got started with music, and um, how I got to the guitar.
That's awesome. Just a side question, like, were you into Halo by any chance growing up?
Of
Did you play
course,
Halo games?
of
So
course.
like, I this is I just I'm very curious about this. Like, when you played Halo 2 and you heard the theme song, did you know it was Steve?
No, no, I didn't when I was playing Halo 2, I didn't even know who Steve Vai was.
So like, when you found out, like, what was the reaction?
I think I found that out. So there was like a rumor when I was like 13 to 17, the place for guitar was ultimateguitar.com, because that's where all the tabs were. So
Yeah,
like ultimateguitar.com had forums and like chats and comments and stuff, and I lived in that. I lived in that. And I remember there were a lot of rumors about who played the electric guitar on Halo 2. And I remember seeing uh, people say it was Satriani. I remember people saying it was Steve Vai. I never really connected the dots. I always, obviously, I mean, Halo is one of the greatest games ever. The Halo soundtrack, I have transcribed, by the way, a large majority of it, because
it's
uh,
lovely.
yeah, Martin O'Donnell is brilliant, man. He can do things with Dorian that are like, what? Like I didn't know those notes existed. And then I transcribe it. I'm like, I guess it's just Dorian, but like, shit, I can't do that with Dorian. Like this guy's a genius. Um, but no, I did not know. And I don't remember when I actually figured that out. It was probably in college at some point when the internet started to get better at well, the it was easier to find real information about the guitar world on the internet after a certain point. Um,
Because I guess, like, after a while there was a video of, like, Steve actually, like, behind the scenes, like, live one take improv shredding on it, and that's how I found out through the internet. I
yeah,
didn't know that it was him, and I was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense now.
yeah, yeah. Once you
That's
hear it,
awesome.
it can't be unheard.
Yeah, yeah, true, true. And so yeah, that's how you started off with guitar, and then I guess, like, fast forward a few years, um, you got into law school because you like, you thought, like, I have heard that you thought that you wanted to do that, and then you did it, like, right?
Yeah, yeah. I became a lawyer. I practiced law for 3 years in Washington D.C. I did antitrust, and I did some litigation and some white collar type of stuff at two big law firms in D.C. And my I guess my path to music was an interesting one, maybe for some people. I guess, I mean, looking back on the sort of zigzagging around I did, it's interesting to me. I um, I was very 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 hell bent on, uh, for lack of a better expression, being successful. When I was a kid, I was um, very passionate, very intense. I worked really hard in school. I was really good at school. I always wanted to try and be the team captain or the president of whatever, because I just liked wanting to achieve things. I don't really know. And
I can
I,
totally relate.
yeah, I was an overachiever, man. And I wanted to make my parents happy, and I didn't really I didn't really connect with deeper purpose beyond that, because I didn't know that I didn't know that I was capable of pursuing something artistic and creative. And I was very focused on sort of the type A analytic achievements, And that's not necessarily, it wasn't because I liked it. It was because I was good at it. And I was in a feedback loop of, oh, get good grades, get praised, tell people you're going to law school, uh, your friends' parents, your, like whoever these people are, your teachers, coaches. You have these people who are adults when you're a kid, and when you tell them things and they respond a certain way, it influences your behavior. And I got a lot of what kind of kid isn't going to get positive feedback when he comes up and he's,
Right.
a 13, 14-year-old kid, and I was, very articulate and very passionate, and I want to become an attorney, and I want to change the world, and I want to run for office, and blah blah blah. And people, it was
They
cool, like,
gas you up in a good way,
yeah.
that
And
okay, you're
that's,
you're so awesome, you're
yeah,
smart
man, I mean,
stuff.
and that's like that just goes to show that I had a great support system, and I had great friends. And what happened to me is my true love was always music. My enthusiasm came from music, and that's why I mentioned the Dire Doc story, because it was kind of like the first time I connected all the dots of art, because it's visual, it's interactive, it's audio, it's music, it's all these things, and but I was trapped in a path of not my choosing. And along this path, there had to be a moment where I sort of broke. And people might look at, this story and say, well, it was when you quit. No, the moment I broke was about 3 weeks into law school. I went to college. I moved to Washington, D.C. I went to Georgetown Law School. And 3 weeks in, I was like, dude, I can't do this. Like this, like I am not capable of doing this. I can't produce what needs to be produced in order to be successful in this profession, because I don't have it in me. I don't care about any of this stuff. I don't believe any of it is important. None of it has any meaning to me. And you know, it was it was a tough time, because I was very emotionally overwhelmed by my desire to have some kind of meaningful life, and yet also, how do I survive? How do I get a job? Right. So what I did, when I had this sort of existential crisis, I made a commitment. I made a promise to myself, um, when I was 24, and I guess it would have been in 2016 fall, 2017 spring. And I was in my second year of law school. And I made a promise to myself after getting through the first year of law school insanity. I said, I'm going to be a musician. That's it. I said it out loud for the first time. My entire life, I had been saying out loud, I'm going to be a lawyer. And now, for the first time, uh, I looked myself in the mirror and I said, you know what? I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to be a musician. And, but life is life. You have to do something. So I finished law school despite every desire
Push
not
through.
to. I pushed through. I finished. I passed the bar. I got a job, um, uh, a great job. It was two. I had two really really solid jobs as a lawyer, but it really took a toll on me. But I just never quit doing music, man. I just never quit. I wasn't gonna stop, and I pushed through, and eventually, the opportunity came.
I see. When you started your job, like a lot of people, like after a certain age, they stop. Because I am at an age where in the next 6 months or so, I'll have to start hunting for jobs. So people my age, people a little bit older than me, they're like, oh, our job's too tiring, like we get barely enough time to make food and go to sleep, and how are we supposed to do music and stuff? But I personally feel that when you love something, like very dearly, you make time for it, like simply there's no excuse to that. So I believe that's something that you did too.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to sit here and get on a high horse and act like I'm some kind of god who would work a 12-hour day and then play guitar for 4 hours at night. And that was, I mean, there were points in time when I was a lawyer where I didn't play guitar for weeks. And there were many points where I wasn't keeping up with my goals. But ultimately, here's how you fix that. My strategy, and I mean this works for me now, still to this day. Um, you have to set non-negotiable deadlines. What that means is, and give yourself deadlines that are kind of medium to longer range. So when I committed to music in 2017 spring, I made myself one long-term goal. I said, the kind of musician I want to be is one that makes records. I want to make albums. I want to make great music. I don't care about being famous on the internet. I don't care about any of that bullshit. I'm going to make great music because in 10 years, if I do that right, maybe I'll be able to build a following of people who love my music, not who love all my other shit. Like, there's going to be content, there's going to be things. I'm going to make videos, I'm going to do this, but making great songs and learning and mastering that craft was my goal. So I promised myself, I said, you're going to make one album a year, no matter what. And I did that. I made 3 solo albums and the first Flying Formation record over the course of,
3 years, 4 years.
it would have been, it was over the course of, I missed the deadline a little, but it worked out that I basically made 4 records in about 5.5, 6 years.
That's
And
fair.
along the way, I played in like 4 bands, um, and I gigged a lot in DC. I gigged in local bands, so I was sort of building my chops and building my recording and writing skills all at the same time. But setting non-negotiable goals is really important because then you can say, all right, I've got 6 months. I got to make my first song, and I've got to make my first EP, and you just give yourself 6 months. And that gives you the time to say, you know what? I just worked 12 hours and commuted. I'm going to play Call of Duty tonight because I'm a gamer, bro. I got a game to stay sane. But what you do is what you have to make are some sacrifices, and whether it be weekends, whether it be if you can do the early morning or late night thing before or after work. I really wasn't good at that. I would just pick the guitar up and fudge for maybe 2 minutes and then call it a night. A lot of times there were many days, but you have to stay excited about the possibility of your ideas. And so I would get a song idea that would pop into my head like magic, And when I was still discovering the superpower of writing music, a lot of times, because I was so pissed off all the time, I would get an idea and I would come home and just be like the Flying Formation song Dingle Hopper is a great example. I came home from work, long day, 10 hours in the office, 2 hours commuting, and I just heard this little melody in my head. And I was like, whoa, that's a song. And then I grabbed my guitar, turned my phone on video, and I just figured out the notes. I reverse engineered my idea. I did not pick the guitar up and try to write something crazy. I reverse engineered a very simple melodic idea and I put it down on paper, so to speak. And that was it. And then it took me like 6 months to finish writing the song. But I would have binges, like on a Saturday. One of my favorite things to do on Saturdays when I didn't have to work. Lawyers work on the weekends too. But if I didn't have to work, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna go get a big energy drink. I'm gonna get a big coffee. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna write this song for like 5 hours. And so I would have binges of creativity, and then I would go back into the real life work hole.
Yeah.
So that's how I did it. And it's funny. I sometimes I see people in the guitar community online say things like, "Oh my god, like I haven't been able to play guitar for 3 days and my soul is crushed because of whatever reason." And I'm like, bro, you don't understand pain. Try going a month and a half without playing guitar
It's
because
like
your
it's like
life is.
Spider-Man. It's like Peter Parker from Spider-Man 2. Like you're literally losing your powers for the entire season of something.
Yeah, it happens, man. I'm sorry that playing guitar for 3 days ruined your life. Not playing, but you're not really aware of what it's like for most people. And for most people who love music, they are lucky if they play for an hour in a week. And I empathize with that because I've been through that. And the way that you get around that, to sum it up, is you make a non-negotiable goal of something you really want to do, that you know, hey, if I do this, it should theoretically feed in to the ultimate next step. If you want to
Right.
be an artist, make albums. Don't worry about content. If you want to be a content creator, make fucking covers. Don't make albums, because that will not get you clicks. Like it's
True.
very simple. You can make a survival living in both situations, but you have to decide what's right for you.
Yes. So like process driven goals more than anything. And I totally side with you what you're saying, that because I have seen, like, any piece of gear that you endorse is not something that you approach it from an influencer point of view, but it's just something that you use daily for your music making, and it just serves the purpose of it being a great integration for that brand too. So for example, Abasi guitars, it's not like you're an influencer, it's like you literally use it on tours and stuff, and it just so happens that it serves as a great integration for the brand to, like, have you on board with them. And that's how even I want to do it. So I stopped, like, I would, like, I would be a rebel. Like, I'm like, hey, it's 12 a.m, let's post it now, because I don't care about clicks. I reaffirm stuff to myself, because, like, you have, like, people are saying, okay, you have to post at like evening your time, that's when people get off from their office jobs and they're on the train to commute, so they have their phones open, and that's how you get more clicks. And I'm like, f that jazz. Like, if we are in here for the long run, then we should post at 12 a.m, because that's ballsy and stuff, whatnot.
I love that, and I love that you do that. And John Mayer said something in an interview once that really stuck with me. Uh, it stuck with me because I had felt in my heart that, like, this is what I wanted to do, but I didn't really understand its value when I was in this early to mid 20s phase. Um, John Mayer said it doesn't matter like how many people are following you. Like, whenever you're gonna do a release of something, like, even if you have one person following you, like, you need to hype it and produce it and create an experience that you would be proud to present to millions of people. Like that, that was it. I'm
Yes.
paraphrasing, but that was the essence of the quote. And I was like, dude, that's so genius, because it's like, if you do only have 10 people following you, instead of being like, damn, I only have 10 followers, be like, damn, I got 10 followers, let me put on a motherfucking show. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
yes, yes.
Like I want to put on a show, and it doesn't matter who's watching, but I'm going to do something insane.
Yeah,
And
you're being true to yourself, and you
yeah,
are not.
I
That's
I've
what's up.
never I've never I think the closest, the best I've come to executing that is with the Last Flying Formation album. We did a really fun music video, two really fun music
The
videos and
some the
stuff.
beach, the pool one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so
Okay.
we approached it with, like, hey, we're a very unknown band. We're just kind of starting, but, like, this was my idea was, dudes, like, let's go do a rave beach party, and like, just destroy a pool party, and it would be super douchey and fun. And that's the creative idea, that's the creative energy. And I it's a constant battle, but really I just try to focus on that and not worry about results or outcome. Because look at Rush. I mean, there were people for their entire career that said they were the worst band ever. There were people who always said that they sounded terrible. There were always tons of people who didn't like it. So it's like, you're gonna have people who don't like it, because if it's good, you're going to have that. If you don't have that, then what you're doing is too prosaic. It's too general. It's too weak. If you're not standing for something and pissing some people off, get you're never going to really make a stand and inspire the people you want to reach.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mm.
I have a question that I personally want an answer from, because I feel like, we both have had a lot of common while growing up. Like, being the positive affirmation, being the overachiever kind of things. I
Yeah.
always have this fear that, that I will, like, a few years down the line, I or people will say that, oh, he's the guy who used to have potential but didn't use it. Like, that fear is always with me. So, like, I'm trying to get over it, but it's hard. So, like, do you have any tips?
Yeah, the only thing you have to fear is fear itself.
I don't follow. Sorry. Can you
The
please?
the well, it's a famous uh, quote from some president in America, but I do, and I don't normally quote politicians, but it's a it is truth that the only thing you should be afraid of is the concept of being afraid. Like that concept is poison. The only thing to fear is fear itself. You are only going to, and I mean, speaking to what you said, but also speaking generally, like I'm not singling you out. Um, fear is a powerful motivator of bad decisions. And look, I'm no saint. Okay, I have so many things that I fear. Uh, in different ways over the years, things that have held me back or I've been afraid of, and still, I mean, we're all humans. You can't get rid of these things, but you can manage them, right? You can manage them. So, basically, my response to that is, um, who gives a shit? And that's what you should tell yourself. Who gives a shit? Because who cares what other people think anyway, right? Who cares? What is it going to actually affect you if someone thinks about you as the person who didn't reach the potential that they perceived for you? What in reality, in the reality we live in our day to day, right? In the actions you take every day, what harm will that person thinking that bring you? Nothing. The only harm it's going to bring you is harm that you inflict upon yourself. That is self judgment. It's not the judgment of others, it's self judgment. So, to that, I say, dude, fuck it. That's my
Fuck
that's
it.
my response. Who gives a shit? Who cares, dude? This world is full of so many stupid people who make dumb decisions, who care about dumb shit, and who just live their lives like feeding on brain rot from the internet and from the world. Like, who gives a shit what they think? And by the way, they're not even thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. That's the other thing,
That's
is
true.
that we have this perception that other people must be thinking about me all the time. That's just your ego, brother. That's not reality. Because guess what? The reality is they're in their own head creating suffering for themselves about what they're thinking you might be thinking about them.
That's some paradox shit right there.
That's the that but that's why I say the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, because fear is the creator of all of this self-hatred and anxiety. And man, I mean, you can deal with it by going to therapy, you can deal with it by journaling, by doing analysis. I deal with it by going to the gym and physically punishing myself. That's how I deal with it. That's how I deal with it. I go to the gym. I get in a sauna, get in a cold plunge. Uh, that's how I deal with it, because I feel like physically forcing it out is the best medicine for me. But that's what works for me.
Each to their own.
Yeah, that's what really works for me. I grew up playing sports. I'm a physical person. I'm a big person. I like to move. I love to play sports, and So I love the gym. That's where I go every time I leave. Every time ever I've walked out of the gym, I feel better. And shit that was bothering me before is not bothering me anymore. So it's kind
Uh-huh.
of the greatest drug in the world, really, when you think about it. But yeah, man, I mean, like, look, dude, like, who cares? Like, it really comes down to that, you know? It really comes down to who cares? Well, you care.
Yeah.
So stop caring so much, man. Stop worrying because they don't know you, bro. They don't know your life. Who is to say anything about potential? Who is actually in a position to evaluate your potential and judge you based on how they perceive whether or not you reached your potential?
I get what you mean.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I admitted like most of this bullshit is self-imposed, like and I'm trying to overcome it, and I think like from what you said, it's easier because like it's not that I don't know what's up. It's just that it's hard, like to remind myself that, and when I hear it from like awesome folks like yourself, it just like helps. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
Firstly,
man. Anytime, you know, that's what friends are for, man. Like that, and that's an addendum I would add to this, which is you can have the gym, you can have therapy, you can have all these outlets, but friendships with people who aren't in your industry. People in your industry, of course, because with those kinds of people, they get you. They understand why you're in the career you're in, right? Like my lawyer buddies will never understand the career I'm in. But I can bullshit with them about all kinds of stuff and feel better about life, you know. Um my guitar playing buddies, like I can bullshit with them about all kinds of stuff and we can connect on different levels. So just being social and having circles, having tight knit but valuable circles of people that understand this stuff and that you can level with and say, dude, like I've been struggling. Like I'm really worried because I feel like I'm blowing my potential and like I'm afraid what people are going to think of me in 2 years when I haven't done anything with my life. And then you need that person to uplift you, right? That's where you need your support system, not to affirm uh not to affirm you down the wrong path like we were saying earlier. That's where you need your support system to help you stay strong. Think about the Spartans. You ever see the movie 300?
yep,
The Spartans, dude, the phalanx. Like if one point in the phalanx breaks, the whole thing fails. But
falls
if that
apart.
little arrow stays strong, if your brothers stay strong with you, if your sisters stay strong with you, no one can pierce you. You can't get in. It's unbeatable. You could bring the largest army in the world. You can rain arrows, black out the sun, but you can't kill them. You can't kill them unless you cheat because those motherfuckers are not going to break and they have each other's backs. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you got to find your
That's such a
Spartan
great
family,
analogy.
man.
Yeah, yeah. I That's true. I have a similar question like that. When we love something, like let that be a person or music. In this case, it would be music. There comes a point where we start approaching it from an anxiety point of view too. Like
Mhm.
hey, I love music, but I haven't. Like, I have to do this or do like the line between setting non-negotiable boundaries and making yourself anxious to get work done, that hey, I have to do x or otherwise y won't happen and stuff like that. So I have had those moments recently, and in those times I've realized that hey, like this is something I love. Why am I approaching it from an anxiety point of view? Like I have to only do it if I love it, but at the same time be disciplined about it. So, have there been moments like that with you? And would you share them with me?
Oh, endlessly, brother. Endlessly. I couldn't I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know where to begin. That is the challenge of being a human being. right? Like that's the challenge, is that, when people say we're humans, we're imperfect, that doesn't mean that like sometimes human beings decide to rob grocery stores. Like what that, like imperfection of being human, being imperfect, it is a far deeper concept than the surface level of our planetary actions. Imperfection runs very deeply in our nature, because if you look at the types of creatures we are anatomically, okay, and how our bodies even function, right? Like there's our bodies have been optimized, right? Like I saw this video on TikTok one time, and it was like you don't ever want to zoom in on an apple because then you'll never eat another one again. And it like microscopes in on an apple, and the apple's like covered in whatever parasites and shit. And I just laugh at that because I'm like, bro, like, do you not understand that you are carrying around a literal vat of acid? like like all that little shit, like it's all gonna die in 10 seconds in your body. Like your body is designed, it's optimized to handle that. But at the same time, imperfection, like what do I mean by this in our being? It's because we are in a deep state of internal conflict because of our nature. On the one hand, we have evolved and become these conscious monkeys that lived in forests and walked around in the jungle. Now, all of a sudden, we're living in fucking apartments and houses and driving cars and building businesses. And it's like, dude, like in the universe's perspective of time, in a literal nanosecond ago, we were like not speaking, like we were running from animals in woods. So our physical chemistry is not equipped to handle the strength of survival instinct and the power of having a soul and emotional intelligence. Like these two things are deeply in conflict. So, like, at the core of our existence, we are forced every day to wake up and navigate the complexity of holy shit, I'm afraid of that thing in the bush. Holy shit, what's that in the dark? Holy fucking shit, I'm gonna die. We're forced to navigate that with, oh, life is beautiful, and look at the sky and the trees and all this beautiful drink and all this, all this pleasure. And like, dude, like how can you understand art and also like walk around at night and not be afraid of a rustling noise in the bush? Like, dude, being a person is fucked up. It just
Agreed.
is. I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm pointing to as much logical analysis of our state of existence, right? Like we know this about ourselves. Like we have deep rooted instincts geared for survival, but we also seem to have this deep rooted desire, right, to connect emotionally and to express and to make art. So it's like when you think about that, when you take that medicine for a second, it kind of eases your life up a little bit, because then you can go, you know what? Shit, man, like it's not my fault that, I didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. Like you've never really done anything wrong, because you've been fighting your entire life with diametric opposite chemistry. We're not machines. We were talking about AI earlier. Like, I mean, AI is going to be insane because it's a machine.
Yeah.
It's a machine. We can meld it to as much perfection as possible. Then of course it's going to go off on its own, and it's going to be born, and it's going to become its own thing. But we did not get to handcraft ourselves, right? Like we evolved. We turned into these fucking thinking monkeys, who wear clothes. Like when did clothes get invented, right? Like when did that happen? So anyway, I'm on a bit of a tangent, but my point is this, brother. My point is when you struggle with these things, when at least when I struggle with them, okay, I try to look at the big picture and I try to say, all right, dude, there's nothing to be upset about because look at this shit. You know, it kind of brings about a little bit of peace. It brings about a little bit of freedom because it allows you to say, you know what? I am a monkey. Like I'm literally like a monkey. Like I'm not some superhuman computer. Like I gotta sleep 8 hours. I've gotta eat. I've gotta go to the bathroom. I've gotta drink water. Like I've gotta do all this unnecessary shit to stay alive. And my brain, my mind, meanwhile, you could be 90 years old and be as sharp as a tack. You could be 90 years old and you could, like John Williams, just unretired in his 90s, you know?
Crazy.
Like look at that. And that motherfucker's probably going to write some insane music. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, dude, like the mind and the body, we try to connect them, but sometimes I find that it's helpful to just completely disconnect them and just say, dude, like my mind is running wild. I'm a fucking monkey. I don't know what to do. So like I'm gonna just do some monkey shit. I'm gonna just work out. I'm gonna just walk around outside. I'm gonna just eat a steak. I'm gonna just not care about all this heady shit because I'm also a monkey. I really believe in that, dude. Like I think there's a lot of power in just doing monkey shit. And one of my favorite things in the world is to dance. Just get up and dance. That's why I love EDM, man. It's like dancing. I forget the specifics of this study that I saw some fit mind influencer on Instagram, putting out in the world. But it looked like a legit study that was talking about how dancing is like has been shown to be astronomically more therapeutic than meditation, than breathing exercises, than exercise, than all these things. Like dancing is like way off the charts for how it can help people's mental state. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Because it's monkey shit. Because you're just moving your body, man. You're just getting it all out. And you know, anyway, that's my tangent.
I mean, I'm glad that we went on that tangent because that's something that we don't usually talk about, right? Like it's so innate and it sounds so second nature, but we don't talk about it. So like it's not something that comes us to us naturally in our thought process. But I'm really glad that you shared
Yeah.
that info. So yeah, totally agree with that. I've one very key thing that I've noticed about you is how you have leveraged networking to gain opportunities that just shows your competence as a musician, be it like jamming with Dave, be it being a guitar tech with Steve. So can you walk us through like are there any things that you've learned like over the years when it comes to being act genuinely a good person, communicator, and a network guy, and not being a dickhead of some sort? I mean, I'm
Yes.
sorry if I use that
Yes.
word, but you get my point, right?
Absolutely. Your number one goal should always be to learn. I never showed up at any situation where my number one goal in my heart that I had decided was my goal was I'm gonna meet so and so and I'm gonna network. I'm gonna dude, your number one goal should be education because if you go in to scenarios with the perspective of I'm going to ask fucking questions. I'm going to listen. I'm going to learn. That is how you connect with people. That is how you actually get real benefit from a relationship. And by the way, as someone who now, you know, uh, I have some students and people want to ask me questions. And that's awesome. I don't take that for granted. I don't take you asking me to do this for granted. Like, This is something that many years ago I would have said, I really want to one day be at a point where, maybe I'll have something that people want to ask me about. Maybe people will be interested in my music and my art and my persona because they think I'm doing something valuable, and that would make me feel like, yeah, dude, like this is the connection that I wanted as an artist. So
Here we are,
that.
man.
Thank you for that. And but if you go into any social situation, and I've got news for you, if you go in there asking questions and listening, you are the smartest person in the room, because there is so much to learn from other people. There is so much to learn. And as soon as you start thinking that you don't have anything to learn and you don't need to ask questions, you're fucked. You've lost. You have lost. You have absolutely lost. Because guess what? You're never going to figure it out. This stuff we're talking about that we struggle with, we're going to be struggling with it till the end. There is no surpassing it. There's the battle, the education, the learning, the growth. You can try and become a monk and whatever you want to do, and that's all great. But at the end of the day, it's all a mystery. It's a great conundrum, and um, if you seek knowledge in the world, you are rewarded. And that was what I always did. I said, I'm going to be me. I never really thought about what kind of person I wanted to be. I want to be me. But I knew enough about myself from life to say that, what am I? I'm super fucking enthusiastic. I'm super excited about the things I get excited about. I'm an energized guy, and I want to learn because I want to get better. It doesn't matter how good I get. I always want to get better because I love to get better and I enjoy the process of getting better. So it's like, I've never wanted to be that cool guy that like other people want to talk to, and yeah, I'll let you in on my secrets, and if the right things happen, like we can network. That's not how it works, man. I go in and I meet people and I look them in the eye and I'm like, tell me something. What are you doing right now? What are you working on? What are you thinking about? What's new in your life? And I just try to listen, man. I just try to listen, because I learned more from asking uh Dave Weiner, my mentor. I learned more from asking him questions than anything ever in music. I would just we would be like at lunch, or so, before he asked me to be his tech and ultimately replace me in the band. um I would drive up to Philadelphia from DC and hang out at this jam club that he had. Why? Not because I was like, oh, I want to become his student and maybe his tech one day. No, dude. I was like, dude, that guy is a boss, and I want to learn from him. And that was my goal. My goal was, I want to spend time around this guy because I want to learn. And so when we hung out, I would just ask him so many fucking questions. And not in an annoying way, but just in a like in a way that allowed me to observe. And I learned more from the things he said to me over lunch than anything. You could go to music school for get your PhD. You could watch every Rick Beato video under the sun. You could read every book there is. And I learned things over a beer or a sandwich with him that I've never heard anywhere else, and that I never could have figured out anywhere else. And that was because I just asked. Not, and again, not in a weird or pressing way, but just in a, oh, dude, like, really? You really feel that way about this thing? Tell me more. Tell me more. What? Wow. Okay. And instead of responding by saying, instead of listening by like listening and thinking, oh, that reminds me of this thing in my life. I can't wait to tell him about this thing in my life. Oh, 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 my life has that too, blah, blah, blah. And then, oh, he finishes talking. Oh, you're done talking now? Oh, well, guess what? Let me tell you about something from my life that relates to what you said. No, no, no. No, no. No, that's not how I be. because that's short-sighted as fuck. That's not good conversation, you know? That's not valuable connection. You're not learning something. You're just trying to flex. So I love to shut up and listen, and I love to ask questions. And I think with the right people, I'd like to think that I could spend hours asking them questions and never say anything about my life because it's not relevant. Like if I'm there, fuck man, I want to learn from you. I want like whoever you are, I want to learn something from you because it's gonna help me grow. So that's my mindset. And you know, I've been in, I guess in music it was weird because I in the legal world I had done so many networking events. In between college and law school and being a professional in the corporate world, I have networked so many fucking times it makes me want to vomit. You know?
LinkedIn really ruins shit, right? Doesn't it?
Yeah. All that stuff is all just garbage. You know? So it's like when you do get the chance, the way I recommend people do it is to directly seek the source of exactly what you're interested in and ask as many questions and listen as carefully and actively as possible. If you listen actively and you absorb and you shut your fucking mouth and you stop thinking about what you want to say that makes you sound cool and you just fucking listen and learn, man, the world changes. So that's my advice. I think of it too as like if you want to do business with somebody, that's kind of a different story. If you want to get to know somebody, then and you want to like the formula that I just described, that is a mathematical formula that leads to the end conclusion of never-ending improvement, which to
True.
me, that's exciting. If you want to do business with somebody, right, and you want to approach the conversation more from a perspective of equals, right, then the question becomes it's a little different, right? Because then the question becomes, well, we both know inherently that we have something of value that could add to the other. So then it's like, you know, from a business perspective, then you have to say like, okay, well, like what's the business value add for us here, and how do we game this situation we're in, right? How do we work together to achieve a you know a kind of a business goal of
I
some
see.
sort? And
Yeah.
so I think relationships can have both facets, right? Like, you know, you don't have to just have one facet with somebody or the other, but I have found that unless you're like, you know, unless you're pitching your idea on Shark Tank, like for the most part, the seeking knowledge approach works. It really works. Unless someone approaches you, then the way you maintain your value and also value the person is if you want to work from them, you think of it from a business perspective, you know, of you know, how can we help each other reach some goal? And that comes back to the Spartans, baby. That comes back to the phalanx. It's community. It's community.
Yes. Yes.
It's
Yes.
community,
It
which
does.
is something. Which is something. And I'm not just saying this. This is actually true. I felt that a lot in India.
You're right. You're right.
Very the my really good friend Sohail, who's my video editor, he lives in India. Sohail's awesome, man. He when I got to India, we hung out for like the whole week, and he taught me so much because I just had so many questions. I just asked every question under the sun because I'm like, dude, India is like a crazy place, man. It's very different from the United States, and so I wanted to learn like why do people drive this way? Like what do people do for school? Like what is it like here? Like tell me everything. And the one thing he really emphasized, and I was sort of aware of this from you know American Indian families and friends, but like the strength of the family in India is crazy. You know, it is it is really a powerful thing how connected families are. And you know it's like no matter what the circumstances of the outside world, people are just like tight. And it's kind of like just very communal, and I felt very safe everywhere. You know, I never felt really unsafe anywhere. And you know, it was something that stuck out to me as like Indian people are really like tight. Like they value the phalanx. Like they're Spartans about it, you know? And yeah, just an
Yeah,
observation.
I do agree. Like, like with music, like making it and everything that comes on top is actually, like, doing music every day, and anything that comes on top is actually the uh, definition of making it in music.
It's a hard one to answer. I don't think I've made it anywhere. I feel like I have made it so little um, towards my ultimate goal. And that's not to be trite. That's the truth. That's how I feel. Um, and what is my ultimate goal? I'm still figuring that out. You know, I don't. Sorry,
I think your dog agrees. I
my
think your dog
dogs. The
agrees.
dogs agree. They're like, no, you've made it. Shut up. You've made it once you feed us. Um, it's all a matter of perspective, and it's all a matter of the activities and the uh, things that you do in your life that bring you joy. You know, and for me, I guess um, I feel like as long as I'm alive and I'm doing something I enjoy, I feel like I'm making it because um, let me put it to you this way. Um, Having an illusion about what happiness or success of a certain kind might be or might bring you wrapped up in something is a bad idea. Wrapped up in obtaining something in the future, it's a bad idea. When I was 17, I wanted to, my vision of happiness, my dream was I'm going to go to a big time law school. I'm going to make a shit ton of money and I'm going to be that guy in the city in a suit, hot shot. That was my
Steve
dream.
Harvey,
Yeah.
or Harvey Specter,
Harvey
whatever. I
Specter.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love Suits, man. Love that show. Um, and that was my dream. And I did it. I got there and I fucking hated it. And while I was there, I had a new dream. My new dream while I was there was that shit, I want to be a musician. I want to and then I got to tour the world with one of my biggest guitar heroes and I got to work as a tech and then as a player and let me tell you what, I had a lot of fun. I had a great time. I worked very hard. Very hard. Um, very hard on my playing. I worked really hard. My first year as a player in 2023, I practiced 5-6 hours every single day on tour, a day,
Wow.
non-negotiable. It was as soon as the guitars were out of the rack, I went and took one to the green room and I was in there, just working, you know, reading books, trying things, transcribing, because I needed to I felt like I needed to elevate my game to
Yeah.
match those around me. And that can be a great motivator. But let me tell you what, you want to know the truth? You want to know the actual deep down truth? There were
Yes.
plenty of times I was unhappy. Plenty of times. And there were plenty of times where the illusion that I had painted for myself of what happiness might be when I attained a certain thing, then I obtained the thing and I wasn't as happy as I thought it would make me. That's because as humans, we have a tendency to romanticize things of the future, things of the past. And this is to our detriment. This is to our great, great detriment, because the past and the future don't fucking exist right now. You know, they don't exist. I mean, I can't even say to you for certain fact that the grocery store around the corner from my house exists right now. I don't see it. I don't know if it's actually there. I don't know. I don't know. By the way, this concept has been supported by scientific studies. If you ever are familiar with the concept of the beams of light changing when they're observed, it's fucked up, and it's scientifically proven that matter changes when we observe it. Scientifically proven. Okay. So, no, I cannot say for certain that the grocery store around the corner still exists. Um, so all of
Schrodinger's
that is to
cat.
say, all what's that?
Schrodinger's cat. You gotta
So
open the
like
box to find out.
exactly, exactly. Yes. So all of that is to say this. Um, you can and you might want to, and you certainly could enjoy and benefit from setting goals and achieving them and being excited about them and making them happen. But if you put too much emphasis on the past or the future, you miss out on the gift of the present. And this is I am no I am by no means a master of this. Like, don't let me lie to you. I am by no means a master of this. I am crippled by both the past and the future constantly. Constantly.
Yes.
And that is the again the premise that we are not equipped to handle this existence in a lot of ways. It's very hard. So with all that being said, my point is this: the only joy that really ever exists is what you create for yourself in the moment. So my definition of making it is, at this point in my life, uh, I don't really want to think about it anymore. I used to think
Fair
about it.
enough.
I used to think about it all day, every day, and I made it in a couple very big areas of life that I wanted to do. You know, things that uh, you know. I think for most people, accomplishing one of these goals would have been enough. You know, and it wasn't enough for me. And that's not because I'm some kind of special person. That's because I've got a very abnormal metabolism. You know, I digest things very fast, physically and emotionally. I can eat like a motherfucker, and I can enjoy life's experiences like a motherfucker. So I have a very fast metabolism, and I just, I love making stuff happen. I love reaching new levels. I love learning. And, but all of this is to say that none of it really matters. The only thing that matters is like how nice my mouse pad feels. This is a beautiful mouse pad, you know? I I I I I love my studio. I love it. I look around. I've got all my retro consoles. I've got my amps and my guitars. I've got Neil Peart signed drumstick that he played.
Whoa.
You know, and I'm kind of like, dude. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. But before I had all the gear and stuff, like my room was still awesome. I still always wanted to make my space and my thing and my life just feel awesome. I wanted it to. And it's a practice. It is not a mastered skill, it's a practice. But if you start practicing now, in 6, 12, 18, 24 months, your life could look a lot different by practicing exceptional gratitude, enjoyment of the present. You know, the fact that you can breathe clearly, the fact that you have food to eat, enjoy those things, you know. um, the enjoyment of the present is all we have. So when I make music now, I focus as much as I can. I'm not perfect, but I try to never use the word work. I try to never think of it as work. As soon as I think of music as work, I start to get pissed off. I think about I pretend that Ableton is just a video game. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna play the music video game. Like that's how I think of it because it kind of helps me like reaffirm that this is supposed to be fun. This is not supposed to be a job. This is not supposed to be hard. Like it's hard as shit. Don't get me wrong, but it's not supposed to be. It's like I think of music as like the hardest video game I've ever tried to play. It is
Yeah, I
a
mean,
hard ass video game. That's how I think of it.
yeah, I mean, it's never ending. You can take any freaking path you want. There are so many final bosses, and all of them are just you. You know what I mean? So yeah, dude, I totally get that. I do have some like questions I need your insights on.
Sure.
First one being, as playing a part of guitar tech, like, are there thumb rules, or are there any like set of things that they have to be on point before, like, the guitars go on stage? And what things do you have to care about? Because I know nothing about being a guitar tech. I barely know the stuff about my guitar. So, like, handling other
Yeah.
people's guitar, their preferences, like, what all things do you have to consider? Like, can you please explain?
Well, it's very artist dependent. So every if you're a tech, whoever you're teching for will set the standards of what they need. You know, and players can have different levels of demandingness for what they need to do the job. Um, from a big picture, like from a sort of agnostic perspective of like we're not going to talk about this artist or that artist or what, like just generally speaking, the biggest rules are that nothing breaks. If the guitar doesn't break a string, if the guitar stays in tune, and the amps or the pedals and all that shit doesn't break, and the show goes without anything breaking, it's probably success. That is really like the I would say that's the baseline of okay, can we get through? We've got a 40 show tour, right? Can we get through 40 shows without breaking a string, breaking an amp, or having to stop the show? The answer is almost inevitably no. Like that is extremely difficult for anybody. I mean, I haven't been on a lot of different tours. I've been with the same crew for the most part. I know I've gotten to know Satriani's crew from the G3 and S5E3 tours. I got to know Eric Johnson's crew from G3, and of course, I know our guys really well. I was one of our guys, and everyone has sort of different exacting levels of precision and stuff. Uh, Man, I got to give props to Doug MacArthur, who is Steve's tech. I mean, that Doug is like, Doug will go on a 40 show tour and never have a string break because he takes his level of preparation to a fanatic high peak. He changes the high E string and B string on all of Steve's guitars uh, every single day, sometimes twice a day. Like he's constantly monitoring every precise detail. And for a player like Steve, who is that way about his guitar playing, monitoring every precise detail, they're a match made in heaven. You know, uh, me, I'm a little bit more chill. I'm still fanatic about a couple things, but like I try to be very chill. Like as long as the shit's in tune and working, like if something's labeled wrong or something needs to move, like, yeah, we figure it out as we go. It takes a couple weeks for a tour to sort of grease the gears and get moving smoothly, and eventually, after a couple weeks, like no one has to say anything to anybody about what they need because it's just oh okay. So there's like a break-in period where you might feel like you're making a lot of mistakes as a tech, but you're really not. Like you're just learning what the person needs. And then from a hyper technical perspective about the guitars, like you got to get the string gauges right. A lot of people say you should measure the action of the guitars and keep measurements and check the action, check the intonation, and check the truss rod. every day to make sure that millimeter increments are exactly the same. Um, I always just told my techs, make the action as low as possible. If you're going to touch the action, just take it as low as possible. I don't care about buzzing. I don't give a shit about buzzing. I want that action to be as low as possible. And we play with string gauge a lot, and we played with various things to fix spring rattle and noise, but um, ultimately, like as a tech, it's your responsibility to understand, okay, I gave them the guitar and they really liked it or they really didn't like it. Okay, why? Is it the truss rod? Is it the action? Is it the bridge? Is it the intonation? Is it the tuning? Is it the string gauge? There's like 8 or 9 things that it could be. And you have to know what all those things could be. And then you have to know how to tweak them to give the player the feel that they want. But in terms of like maintenance to, survive a tour, in tune, ready to go on time, hopefully no strings break. It happens. Happened to me a shit ton. My rig went down plenty of times. It happens. It's going to happen. But being ready to mitigate it with backups, with quick changes, quick fixes, that's what really being a tech is all about. Being a tech isn't all about never having the pedal board break. Being a good tech is about, oh, that one time it did break, I ran out there and I fixed it in 3 seconds because I know every inch of every cable. You don't want to be that guy who has to stop the show for 10 minutes because you have to fix something. Like, you got to be able to fix it quick and dirty. It doesn't matter if it's perfect, just get it working. That's really what it comes down to.
I see, I see.
Very
And
stressful job. Holy shit, being a tech
I
was
can
so
imagine.
stressful. Oh
I
my
can imagine. Like you
god.
have to be on your toes, like from the start of the show till the end of the show, and
And you've been working all day. Like, by the time the show starts, you've already worked like a 9 hour, 10 hour day.
that's crazy.
Meanwhile, everyone in the band is coming in all fresh and ready to go, and you're like, I'm ready for fucking sleep. I need to eat dinner and pass out. And they're like, all right, it's time to start. Like, you got to be a superhuman to work on a crew, man. You really do. Those people work so hard, way harder than my lawyer friends.
I can't imagine how stressful it is, and like it's totally like you have to know your things inside out. Like you can't wing it, because if you try to wing it, it has an effect on the other party that's not yourself too.
Yeah,
So I mean, and like I don't live in an like in a country that has like too vast of a temperature difference, but let's just say if your tour is going up north in America where it's a little bit more cold, and then you go to something like a west coast or like where it's humid, of course, like it's wood and it's string, so it does have an effect on that. Like, have you ever felt that you have to take a certain steps to like avoid as little trouble as possible in those cases, and what are those things?
it's more so that you just have to deal with trouble when it comes. It's like we
Oh, I
had
see.
the trailer. I remember when we were on one US tour when I was teching, our trailer sat in a literal snowstorm for like 2 days. And
Damn.
then you got to, the guitars are going to be frozen. The wood is going to change dramatically, and then a week
Right,
later
yeah.
we were like in hot California, and the wood constantly shifts. So you just gotta like pay attention, and you've got to be ready. You've got to anticipate things going wrong, and when they do go wrong, you've got to be ready to have a quick fix and a quick solution. Oh, and by the way, you need to have like 4 quick fixes, because I've seen backup amps blow up seconds after they've been brought out to replace the main amp blowing up. Like, that happened for a show of G3, I think it was. Steve had 2 amps blow up.
Damn.
So it's like, you don't want to be that tech that goes, oh, the backup was our only backup. Like, you've got to be ready. You've got to have a solution. Like, you've got to have a solution, another backup, another way to get through the show. You know,
I see, I see.
Steve had to play a
And
fan's guitars once in Bahrain because the airport lost a bunch of gear, and man, they like props to this guy Mike Arrigo, who works for Ibanez and Doug. Mike and Doug like teamed up to connect with the fans at the Evo experience, and like they just like busted ass to find a solution. The tour manager was actually apparently minutes away from coming up to me and asking me, "Hey, like Steve's got to play your guitars and you're not going to be in the show." Like that was like one solution, like, so uh it all worked out. But that's you got to always have a solution in mind. And it's nice if you have signature guitars all around the world, I guess, that helps.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a personal question for your music and stuff, like accessibility or novelty when it comes to gear for studio and for life.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Okay, so would you rather go with a gear that's more accessible and like convenient to use, or would you rather go with something like a tube amp when you're in a studio, and when you're on live? Like in both those scenarios, what's your go-to thing?
I'm a utilitarian. I am all about instant accessibility and usability. I make it a point when I'm making my solo music now and self-producing things to only use my laptop. That's like my goal. My goal is to only use software, because if I can do that, then I can make music anywhere with no restriction. So
True.
yeah, so dude, and listen, um, the only caveat I'll say is that uh, if you record all your guitars with DI, then you can reamp them into a real amp at the end. And listen, look, like I've AB'd everything under the sun when it comes to guitars. Analog, like outboard gear and stuff, studio gear, I don't really know that well. So I wouldn't comment on whether plugins or analog. Like, I'm sure people have good experiences with both. All that matters is you know how to use your tools. But with amps and plugins, I've basically spent 2 decades studying how to get a good tone. And the thing about amps is they're simpler. If you plug in a good amp into either a good load box or a good cabinet with good mics and good placement, like, you're going to get a good sound. And plugins are very specific. So like thinking that one plugin will get you everything is just so idiotic. Like I must use in some songs I've used like 8 different guitar plugins, just because they're all so different. Um, and look, for live, it's Fractal. Fractal is just so bulletproof. The hardware is super, super high quality touring ready hardware. Um, and it's super reliable. Fractal is very, very reliable on the road. And I've learned how to dial in sounds I really like on Fractal. Um, but I don't record with Fractal a lot because I like to change shit. And if you record with Fractal, you're stuck with the tone. I like to record a DI and then tweak the plugin while I'm listening to it, so that I can use different parts of my brain. Use my recording brain. Then when recording's done, then I dial in a sound for the mix. But it's really comes down to whatever works. But for me, I'm a huge believer in technology and laptop only and plugins and software. And I'm sure you can I know you can get amazing sounds by going the other route. And if that's, I would say the only reason you should do that is if you enjoy the process. I hate the process of miking cabinets and analyzing mic placement and trying all the amps. Like, it's just not fun. It's not
Yeah.
fun for me. So I use software and I work with the software, and I might change software. I'll move the mics. Don't sleep on microphone placement. What IR you use, the cabinet sim, and what microphones you use in the sim and how you move them will impact the sound far more than anything else. So it's not like I don't pay attention to those things, but it's more so that I try to have an ear and my energy is creative. I just get so bored by stupid nerdy shit. I get bored. I just want to make music and be creative. I want to play the video game. I don't want to sit there and, like, to me, fucking with amps and microphones and cabinets is not playing the video game. That's wasting my time. For other people, that is the video game. Like, they love that, and they would never do things in the box. And great, no one way is better than the other. Definitely not. It's
Yeah.
all what you like to do. For me, I like to write and compose, and I like to arrange, and I like to get to a finished product fast. That's my goal, is speed. Because if I don't do it fast, I'm going to get slowed down. I'm stagnant. I lose creativity. I lose enthusiasm. So it's all about speed for me. So I play my three Abasi guitars with a quarter-inch cable into my one interface, and I use neural DSP plugins for recording, and that's it for guitars nowadays.
Yeah.
Um, if we were going to do another, when we do the next Fly in Formation album, maybe a different story. Um, we like to use amps for those because their guitar is such a big part. It's fun. Like our mix engineer Eric Novrosky Novro, he's really gear guy, and we did a lot of A/B testing with plugins and gear, and we've come to the conclusion that most of the time for a flying formation record, we'll use whatever sounds the best, but that has traditionally been amps.
I
Always.
see. I see.
Always. We have not
Yeah.
found a way to beat the amps for that band yet. Maybe on this next one. I don't know. But that's how we've done it.
So it's nice to hear. I don't feel alone. So that's awesome.
Right on, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And like this is a very important question. Like, what aspects of being a pro have you learned from Steve?
Um Couple things. I'd say the biggest one is consistency. I have heard him make tons of mistakes. I've made tons of mistakes. We all make mistakes while playing live. But one thing that he never messes up is consistency in his delivery of a full quality product. When you go to a Steve Vai show, right, you're going to get his full thing that he has to give every night, no matter what. No matter what. Consistency. And that's the word I would use for it, more so than anything else, because like it's about authenticity, but being a, you said the word pro, and what does a pro do? A pro is consistent. A pro is,
Reproducibility.
of course, you're authentic. Like we all know Steve is authentic, right? But it's the consistency. It's the showing up, getting the job done, giving the people what they want every time, and not letting the little mistakes and things that you make detract. You know, he's really good about that, uh getting back on the horse really quick. So like if you do make a mistake, like how do you recover? I mean, we played the song, I must have played the song in the last couple years, Tender Surrender, um hundreds of times. I've probably played it with him 400, 300 times.
Wow.
And one time out of however many hundred, I heard him get very lost. One time. One time. So think about that. That's a hard song. That's a hard as shit song. It's a complicated song. And there have definitely been some performances that were way better than others. Again, human fucking beings. You're asking someone to live play an extraordinarily virtuosic piece of music. There have been some times where I hear him playing that and I go, this dude is so locked in, I don't even know what to say. And there have been times where I feel like, damn, it's a little off right now. But those times are so few and far between, and they're also, he can recover it so fast that it always plays off as improv. Always. And that is what pros do, man.
Nice.
That is what a professional at the top of their game can do, is they set their bar of consistency so high that the only people who, by the way, the only people who would perceive these mistakes would be someone like me who's listening to it in in-ear monitors, which are incredibly unforgiving, every night for 2 years. Like, that's the only way I could perceive any of this. Like, for people in the audience, would never, if I, they would never perceive any of these things. And I know, because I've been in the audience at a Steve Vai show when before I even knew Dave. Um, and it's like, when you're there, every little thing sounds completely perfect. Everything sounds perfect. Even when it's not, it feels like it's played off. And that's because a true professional, their bar of consistency is so far beyond everyone else's that even when they dip from it, no one can perceive it. No one can perceive it. And that is the main thing I learned. I learned a lot of things. We could talk for another hour about the amount of things I learned from tour, both good and bad. So many things. But the number one thing I would say to answer your question would be the consistency. That is what someone at the top of their game, who is truly a virtuoso, someone who truly deserves to be at a high level, is profoundly consistent. That is the difference maker. And the thing is that consistency then applies to all other things. It applies to answering emails, booking shows, making content, doing all the other things. And there's varying degrees of excitement and enthusiasm and activity in all these areas. But when it comes down to doing the thing that he's doing for your money, you're giving him your money to watch him play. He is not going to disappoint you. That level of consistency is off the charts. And that's what every real pro does. You give them money, you show up, and you get friggin' consistency. You get the product at its highest level. You get the full experience. Um, and it can be very hard to do. It sounds hard, but it can be very hard to do it on the road. You're away from your family, you're away from home, you're tired, you're sick. I mean, I went to the hospital on tour. I was hospitalized for 3 days on tour one time. South
Yo,
America, South America, I was so sick the entire tour. I couldn't eat. I didn't eat anything for 2 weeks. I was throwing up on airplanes. I was like losing my mind. But you have to make it so that no one knows. Like, that is your job. That's what you're making the schmeckles. That's why you're making the schmeckles, because you're going to go up there and you're going to put on a show. No questions asked. Doesn't matter if you got to go diarrhea the second the show ends. Doesn't matter what guitar you're playing. Like, you turn on the lights, you turn on the shit, and he walks on stage, you're getting 100% every time. No
hell yeah.
questions asked. And you can microanalyze the performances, and you can sit there and say, well, last night this part was a little off, next night that part was a little off. And we do that as players, but it's at such a high level that the audience can't perceive it.
Yeah,
If you're
I totally
watching a
get what you
football
mean.
game, you can't tell uh you can't tell about the wide receiver's footwork. But like, that dude's been grinding on his footwork to a level that you can't even understand. So that when you see him, oh, look, he's so fast. He's like, yeah, well, it's because I did this footwork drill for 12 hours for a week straight. And now my footwork can do this thing. You know, they take it to a level we can't perceive. So it's the same thing in music.
I see, I see. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, having people like Steve around will inevitably ingrain that in you. So like, I think you're the real winner here. Like, imbibing through osmosis, like, and also the fact that you mentioned that him making mistakes. I feel like, we as people put other people on pedestal a lot than we should. That, oh, he's a god. like, this guy's a god, or this guy is, like, a legend. I mean, sure, I mean, we use the term legend very casually, and, like, even the term god and goated and stuff, but
Yeah,
having that human aspect to, okay, I mean, he made a mistake and he's still cool, so let's just appreciate him as a human being more, you know what I mean?
for sure,
and
for sure.
and I
And
feel you must have had that.
yeah, and it also it you know uh hearing 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 people hearing people make mistakes, it just, this is going completely full circle, right? Because it all goes back to worrying about what other people think about you. To bring it back to the very beginning of the conversation, what is a mistake in a live performance on the electric guitar? Holy shit, define that one. Because my definition of a mistake might be very different from someone in the audience's. And if I show that my bend was a little out of intonation and I get upset, ruins the show. No one gives a shit, you know? And that's part of the problem with cell phones at shows, is that everything's captured and everything sounds out of tune. By the way, everything sounds out of tune on cell phone speakers. You know, when you listen back, you go, God, that sounds out of tune. But like, no, it wasn't, you know? Um, uh, it's just weird like that, man. But, you know, ultimately, caring about what other people think, fear of that, it's all poison. It all takes us out of the moment. And what's the moment? The moment of a rock concert is, we're going to come out, energy, uplifting. Let's make the world better tonight. Who gives a shit
Yes.
about a mistake? You know, that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. It's not a test. It's rock and roll, dude. It's rock and roll.
Hell yeah,
That,
yeah,
and
it's
that's
rock
what
and roll.
Instagram. That's what people on who obsess over the perfection of an Instagram video are missing. They're missing rock and fucking roll, dude. You know what I'm saying?
I totally get what you mean, because like, G3, like, a big part of a G3 is improv, and, like, just two guys, exchanging guitar ideas on stage live. And for somebody like me who doesn't practice improv that much, that is so daunting. And I asked the same question to Jake, like, I don't see a lot of other people in our prog and stuff do, like, live jams. Like, how did you guys start? They were like, yeah, we grew up watching G3 and we wanted to do it, so we are doing it. We were not the best when we started, but, like, we are doing it a little better now. So I guess so, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. He's a guy with a lot of stories and a lot of jokes. He asked me one time. He asked me one time early on in working for him, like, he's like, yeah. So now that you've gotten to know me as like a real person, like, what he was like, what do you think? I'm not like some kind of weirdo. I'm like, dude, you're a lot funnier than I thought. Like, you're funny. Like, he's funny. He's got some layered jokes. And there would be some times where he would make a joke about something in some way, and like, other people wouldn't laugh, but I got it. I got the thing he was trying to say. I'm like, oh, that's funny. That's like clever. That's a little out there, you know. So that's what I said to him. And it's true. It's true. You know, he's got a lot of great stories, but um, he's a funny motherfucker. You know, he can definitely make you laugh, in a layered way, which is cool. Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is like, jamming, dude. It's just having fun and hanging out. Like, jamming isn't a fucking contest. You know, jamming is just about having fun, dude. Like, whenever I jam with people, I just pretend I'm 17 back in my, friend's garage playing, Rush songs. I'm like, that's the energy I want to create. Like, just no competition, no judgment. Like, I don't give a fuck how you play. Like, I don't care if you're good. Like, are you cool? Do we want to hang out? Are we having fun? Is this a good time? Like, does this feel good? Like, that's all that matters. You know, do I want to sit down and play Call of Duty with you after this? Like, are we going to talk about our lives? Like that's what it is, man. It's a hang, you know, it's a hang. And like jamming in concerts, uh, you know, like in the G3 context, jamming in concerts can go very badly or very well. I've seen it go both ways in all kinds of settings, all kinds of shows. Um, it can go very badly. It can go very well. Usually, it goes really well uh, when the people involved in trading are smiling. That's a secret.
Oh,
That's a
okay,
secret. That's a secret I
okay.
learned from watching Pat Metheny. Pat Metheny will take an 8-minute solo and smile the whole time. Just smiling, like just like completely lost in inexplicable joy. That's what I'm going for when I play. Like that's my benchmark of making it. Again, to bring this full circle, you said what's making it. If I could be as happy as Pat Metheny playing, then I've made it because that's what it's all about. Just feeling good, joy.
I get you, man. And like, yeah, I mean, after a point, like, the exploration never ends, but also the appreciation grows deeper. And I found myself in a place where I was like, oh, okay, it's a major nine chord. What's so cool about it? But I'm getting to a part of life where I'm like, oh, dude, the major nine chord in this context sounds so awesome. And I guess that's probably like a thing that every person goes through, maybe, of like, like finding out that, oh, this is a way to do it, then being like, oh, okay, yeah, but what else? But then coming, oh, wow, this way of doing it is so cool again, like regardless of whether you know it or not. And so, yeah, man. Also, that's pretty much it. I did have a question there. That's what I do, but I've gone through most of it, and you have been awesome. It was really really amazing talking to you, and like, getting especially your mindset about things. And I will definitely be watching this episode for myself multiple times when I'm in doubt, and I'm like, oh, okay, Dante told me this and stuff.
Oh man, that's good to hear, man. Thanks for having me. This was great. I really enjoyed it. Good
i'm i'm
questions, man. This was good conversation.
I'm glad, and
Appreciate
uh
you.
I appreciate you too. So, as part of our parting note of some sort, do you have anything to say about your band Flying Formation, about any upcoming tours with Steve, about anything else musically that I think you did a guest solo recently? Anything like that? This is the segment.
I just released a remix of a song by a guy named Trivecta. He's a music producer, and I did a remix of his song Alaska, and it's on this website. It's not on streaming services, but it's on this website called Audius.
Okay.
And the cover has a little bear on it. It's on my Instagram and stuff. That's my latest work. And Flying Formation, we played our first show ever a couple months ago in Nashville.
Hell yeah.
Um, it went great. We had a great time. Our second record is called One Within. It came out this year as well. We are actively seeking touring opportunities. So we're also working on a third record, and I'm working on I'm really working on learning how to DJ right now and produce electronic music and play guitar with it. And I think let's see, it's November 1st. Uh, I'd like to think that like in a year I'll have a new body of solo workout that is primarily electronic
I see.
with electric guitar. So like the remix I just published for the Trivecta, it was a remix contest. That's like an indication of the direction I want to go solo. And then Flying Formation is all bets are off. We just added a new incredible guy to the band, Tabor Mullins, who's a multi instrumental phenom singer, guitar player, keyboardist, writer. So we're writing super crazy shit. Our next record is going to be
Hell yeah.
super fucked up. So yeah, those are the things coming out um, in the next year or so, and that's it. No touring plans at the moment, so I'm just at home, which is great.
That's awesome. That's fair, and I'm legit very stoked for the next Flight Formation because the latest album, like the Josh Della feature, was awesome, and yeah, the music videos that I've seen were great too. Especially, I apologize for not knowing the name of the song, but the pool party video, like
Oh
the
yeah,
pool video,
Caterpillar
that was
Club.
yeah, yeah, and the song Seven, like I don't know what's the name, like Seventh, like that's a cool one too, like the acoustic part, like the effect that you guys went on the video side, like having a kaleidoscope thing in the background, and you guys, it's like a dreamy setting and stuff. That was awesome. So, and it to me, flying formation, like as the name suggests, feels like a bunch of friends coming and hanging out together, and like music being a byproduct of just the hangs and stuff. So that's what that
Yes.
I get an idea of your music. And yeah, man. Again, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you. I wish you all the best for the rest of the year and with your
Thanks,
music.
man.
And yeah,
Appreciate you, dude. Thanks for having me.